Bengals Minicamp rolled on yesterday. Their offseason program about to wrap up, and I was able to sneak down to practice. There were plenty of highlights. They did some 7-on-7. Mike Gesicki with a nice one-handed grab. It was my first time seeing Brian Cook on the practice field in stripes. That alone was just cool. I was like, oh, there's B. Cook.
How exciting was it to see all those new guys down there? Obviously, every player we've had in here so far is as thrilled as possible about the additions made. I imagine seeing them on field interacting with everyone was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, the thing that stands out about Cook is his size.
Right.
Like, he just looks big, physical. Obviously, you've heard about his leadership and all of those things, but the presence that he has on the field, I think certainly stands out. But yeah, seeing the number 6, seeing the single digit in the back end.
It's a little weird, but I love it.
It's cool. You don't like it?
No, I love it. It's just a shock to see these numbers on the field, even though it's practice jerseys still.
And then Ted Karras, who we had in studio a few weeks ago, working with rookie Connor Liu, and I thought that this was noteworthy. We'll talk about that backup center spot. And then corner. And Jalen Davis is, I would imagine, the starting nickel corner. You never know. But there's another single-digit number there in DJ Turner. And what meter should we put there with the number 0? I'm not sure. This is one of the plays of the day, though. Mike Gesicki with a nice one-handed grab in 7-on-7. But the fire meter, the swag meter, that's what I'm trying to find.
It's like on Instagram when you have to slide it. It's the biggest possible fire emoji.
The swag meter with the 0 for DJ Turner is all the way up.
Yeah, absolutely, and not the only corner making plays yesterday. Josh Newton with a huge pick there in 7-on-7 and an out route with T. Higgins, and seemed to be mixed in with the ones there. Barrett Carter on the field, Brian Cook on the field as well. So the rotation in that slot corner position continues to be a revolving door, at least early in camp.
You said we probably expect to see Jalen Davis at least week 1 starting at nickel. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I think that would be my expectation going into it. But seeing Fig Newton right there, I mean, I know this team was so high on him when they drafted him just a couple of years ago and hasn't quite panned out, I think, the way that they were expecting it to. But who knows? He could be a name that comes up, especially as the season progresses, in that slot, corner position there. And I mean, obviously he needs the reps with the one. So great that he was able to get that opportunity yesterday and took advantage by getting the pick off Burrow.
I wonder if Newton's going to have a real chance in that comp. Like, chance in that, not that he won't get reps, but do you think, Jacob, that he could win that job outright? I think he's one of those guys that they feel is versatile, that needs to prove it a bit. They were high on him, you're right. They were really high on him coming out, and I think things have changed a bit, and so he's very much in a prove-it year. Ideally, you would want your draft pick from a few years ago to step up, be that nickel corner, not journeyman Jalen Davis, who's been on the practice squad for quite some time, or Jasir Taylor, who you just signed, or Braylon Lux, a former undrafted free agent. Like, of all those guys, it should be, like on paper, it should be Josh Newton. And yet, every guy I named, I think may be better suited for that nickel role day one. Maybe not. Maybe we get to camp and Josh Newton balls out and things can change in a hurry. We know that. But to me, I didn't, until yesterday, even really think about, oh, he's going to be really competing in that room for that job.
Yeah, obviously that's not something he's done in Cincinnati, not something he did a ton in Fort Worth at TCU, but he did do it a little bit. 120 snaps across 3 years at the slot corner at Texas Christian, which obviously isn't a huge sample size, but not the first time he's been thrown into that position, which does help a little bit. That secondary of those TCU teams were very, very good, and Newton was a huge, huge part of that. I think there's obviously a hope from people in the organization that were high on him when they drafted him, and fans who fell in love with him pretty early in this whole process, that he gets on the field at some point this year. Now, is it the slot or is it a rotation on the outside at some point? I'm not entirely sure, but it would be great for the Bengals if he can throw his hat into the ring for the conversation at slot corner. The more people competing for that position, the better I'm going to feel about it. It just gives a better chance for the best player to rise to the top and give the Bengals the best chance to win. And a lot of that just comes with competition, and I think they'll get the best out of each other, and I certainly think Newton's someone who's running that race.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out if they add to that room as well. It may happen, may not. One area that I think we all expected them to add to was their linebacker room, and they did not add to their linebacker room this offseason. Take it back. They did sign Swayze Bozeman. So there you go. They signed a guy to their linebacker room, but he's more of a special teamer. So Barrett Carter, Demetrius Knight, those are going to be the starters. As of now, I don't really foresee anyone challenging that. Barrett Carter at practice, it felt like he was the dude. Like he was running the show. Things were revolving around 49. Like he was the veteran. And you can kind of get the sense of that at practice when you look at it. And he was first in drills. They were following his lead. And so I think they're all in on 49 being a leader on this defense and being a guy in that linebacker room that's going to run the show.
Completely agree with you. And even when we had him at the desk with us earlier this morning, he just spoke so confidently. And he's always been a confident guy. I learned that from him last year. Just a much different tone to what he is saying, the way he is talking. You can just feel that confidence coming out of him as opposed to, at times talking with him and having conversations with him during that rookie season. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's, one of the leaders, not only in that linebacker group, but on this defense. It's one of the reasons they loved him coming out of Clemson, and he spoke to it. It's just he's always been a natural leader and something that's come easily to him.
If he's this comfortable and confident leading and stepping up and being the voice of that room and talking to everyone else, then he certainly feels good about his play. Because that's something you got to take care of first before you can really spread your wings and start to take on the other stuff in that room. And it seems like he certainly has attacked that head on this offseason, which makes me feel even more confident about the steps he's taken on the field. Because if he's willing to extend himself in that way, then I certainly feel like he's made a lot of improvements in just the linebacking aspect of things as well. I'd buy in as much Barrett Carter stock as possible.
Yeah, it's easy to. It's easy to after you hear or view our conversation with him. But I think that was their point in going to him last year. We'll see if it pays off. But if you would have told me in January the biggest thing that we'd be talking about in minicamp is, will they add a linebacker after adding everything they have on defense? I'd be like, all right, well, sign me up. And it's because of that defensive front. And seeing Dexter Lawrence and just how physically imposing he is stands out right away, stands out to you, and is something that is going to be a problem. But the thing that I think continues to get overshadowed, and I noticed in the locker room, Jonathan Allen. There's a couple reporters interviewing Jonathan Allen. I'm like, oh, yeah. Not that I forgot. But, that's a big addition.
Yeah.
And it's much bigger when you have Dexter Lawrence. So now Allen can be this guy who's singled up alongside B.J. Hill. You have Cassius Howe, Shamar Stewart. There are a lot of guys not named Miles Murphy, Boye Mafe, the starters potentially. Because only one of Allen and Hill are going to start. T.J. Slayton's still in that room. There's just a lot of dudes in that room where Cedric Johnson's the 10th guy, 11th guy. And they like Cedric Johnson. I know there are veterans on that team that think he can play. So the Bengals' defensive front is certainly something that stood out in minicamp. Just the bodies, the talent, the depth is as good as I've seen it. It's since I've covered the team for more than a decade.
Yeah, well, specifically with Jonathan Allen, how many off seasons over the last 3, 4, 5 years would signing this version of Jonathan Allen been the marquee signing of the offseason? And now it's not just not number one, it's not number two, and it's probably number 3 or number 4 on that list in terms of the offseason additions, which is such a great place to be. And that's what competitive teams do. You don't just sit on your hands when you get that big fish. You keep adding and you go for the depth. We just talked about the concerns with the corner and the linebacker depth. Well, it couldn't be less of a case in the other rooms on that defense. Great depth in the safety room. Great depth on the defensive line. 2 places where it's of paramount importance. So I'm very, very confident in this defensive line this year. I think these guys will be able to play off each other well, keep everyone fresh. And then I guess the question in the D-line room is who emerges as opposed to who gets on the field. Because at least early, they're going to be able to rotate through and keep those guys fresh and give them their best chance to break out. But someone's going to have to seize those roles at some point this season.
Yeah, and that's what excites me most about the depth in this defensive line group is not only are they going to stay fresh, but they can actually rotate a handful of guys. And I love looking at the depth chart, and they're 3, 4 deep. And we haven't even mentioned Chris Jenkins and, what we might see out of him this season, McKinley Jackson. Some of those names that were starting for this Bengals defense are now 3rd on the depth chart. So just massive improvements have come that way, and it's going to be a welcome sight to see when they finally are all rolling out there, and we can kind of see who's going to be taking, that first, not only, probably who's going to be rolling out with the first team, but who's going to be that first group unit in on the rotations.
Couple other notes from minicamp. Dax Hill didn't participate in 7-on-7s. He's just a little banged up, had a little swelling last week after falling hard. He's fine, could have went. They just said, hey, it's minicamp, no reason. So that's why Josh Newton was out there with the ones initially. And then the other thing is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow. We were supposed to hear from Joe Burrow yesterday. We didn't hear from Joe Burrow yesterday. Why? Well, he decided he wanted to practice longer and be the best player in the world. No, really that is what happened though. And I think my theory is he found out that today was going to be a light day. And he was like, well, if today's going to be a light day, Thursday's not going to be a real practice day, and this is our day, I'm going to stay out here and I'm going to get some extra work in. I don't know if it's true. Anyways, we're going to hear from Joe today at some point, but he stayed out. He was supposed to have a 1 o'clock news conference. Was all on the practice field until 1:55 when he finally got back to the locker room. They had a team meeting at 2. Joe Burrow putting that extra work in. I bring all that up not to complain that Joe's today instead of yesterday. I just think fans are going to love that Joe's putting that extra work in.
Yeah, I certainly did. It was
That's
great,
right up Jacob's
great
alley.
to see online that he's this focused. I mean, you see him sitting at the press conference. First time we hear from him all offseason, the first thing he says is the goal of the season is to win a Super Bowl. We're not dancing around with competing in the division, getting back to the playoffs. It's to win a Super Bowl. And how do you do that? Well, maybe it's the extra hour in the beginning of June. You get a couple extra throws in. All these extra little bits of work just show how dialed this team is, how unified they are in chasing one goal and being a team holding that championship trophy at the end of the season. I mean, Barrett sat here at the desk and immediately referred to the season as 25 games long and kept talking about February as the point of the end of the season. Not the end of the regular season, the end of the Super Bowl. And it's great to see everyone in the locker room working at that goal, working together and doing anything that they think is necessary to get there. I couldn't have been more excited to see that yesterday.